Ah. Hello, hello. This is Tony with Phillips Fishworks, and I'm here to tell you about a huge change that's coming in 2 days. So on July 18th, 2025, Phillips Fishworks is getting a total makeover. The homepage is going to be different, contact information will be different, product page will be different. There's going to be a resource learning center where you can go in and learn about some of these products, dive in a little more in depth. Also, we are launching Tank Smoothie. Now, what is a Tank Smoothie? It is a aquarium food. It's gel based. It's going to be in a cup. It's a powder you mix with hot water, gels up, kind of like a Snello. So it's got calcium carbonate in it. That's really good for snail shells. Scuds love it. Everything that's got that hard shell can really benefit from this calcium carbonate. Also, it's got daphnia in it, peas, flaxseed, just some really great ingredients, all whole foods. Going to come in a cup. You pour the hot water right into the cup, mix it in the cup, then it can store in the fridge in the cup it comes in. So it really eliminates having a bag that's got a lot of mess and things like that. Also, it eliminates having you mix up these ingredients in a blender with gelatin. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to make Snello. It can be a huge mess. This is just kind of a convenient way. It's super nutrient dense, so this one cup goes a long way. They're going to be on the website this Friday, July 18th. Also, when you go to the website on July 18th, it's going to be completely different. Huge makeover, so I just want to let everyone know about that. And yeah, let's flip this camera around and look at something else that's a sneak peek, and then we'll look at something else that's a sneak peek. Hang on. Okay, so what are these? More test jars, only there's no water in them. What could I be doing? Why? Why are there dry jars? What the heck is this about? I don't know if anyone can guess. Look, you got springtails, baby terrestrial isopods. I have a thing for isopods, if you guys didn't know. I've never talked about terrestrial isopods on here, but I've had them much longer than any aquarium stuff, any aquatic stuff, rather. Look at these big guys. Huge. So I get a lot of questions about what kind of soil do I put in the bottom of my aquarium? And there's some, you can get some soil out of your backyard if you're cool with that. That's a wonderful option. That's probably a better option than getting soil out of a bag. Potting mix. The problem with potting mixes, which I've used a lot of, is potting mix in a bag is not really like living soil. I mean, there's got to be some bacteria and stuff in there, I'm sure. But look at those springtails. And that's a little baby isopod right there on the glass. The problem with potting mix is mostly nowadays anyways, maybe it was different a long time ago, but nowadays it's in such high demand and it's so mass produced that most potting mixes you're buying at a store are going to be it's a lot of wood material that's been lightly composted. Then they'll also mix in some fertilizers and some lime or dolomite or something to, balance out the acidity to make it, stable. But mostly it's bark that's been composted or shredded up and composted, lightly composted at that. From the paper industry. So they grow all these huge forests of trees to cut down to make in the paper, and they have all this bark, which is a byproduct. And a lot of times they will compost that bark into, soil they're selling. And it's not really, if you've ever gotten a bag of potting mix, it's kind of depressing at what it is. It's not really It's not really a soil that's full of life. It's not really anything. Look at that guy down there. It's kind of hard to see. Anyways, these are... I'm getting off track. What if you could make your own soil? So this jar was started $4.30. So a few months ago. And it was full to the top with leaves. And in this jar is a collection of creatures, little decomposers, land decomposers, isopods, springtails. I had actually had some composting worms in there, but they didn't fare as well. But the isopods and springtails have multiplied like crazy. There's little mites and lots of other little creatures in there. I've seen some other small worms that look kind of like white worms. But yeah, basically I'm making soil. Why? So we can put under the sand in your aquarium. So this is kind of a neat little project I've been working on. They're called Earth Cycle Jars, and it's a demonstration. It's not so much like an isopod habitat. I mean, it certainly is a habitat for isopods. Look at those guys. That's pretty good. So, and I've done no maintenance to these. They've been set up for a few months. Haven't even wiped the glass. You could wipe the glass to keep it a little cleaner. But all the little isopods and springtails have all got tons of babies, tons of reproduction going on. And yeah, they all started out, these two. So they've gotten to where I need to reload them, you could say. So these two, I just put a ton of leaves in. And they all started out about like this, maybe not as packed so tight, but they all started out full of leaves. And 2 months, 3 months later, whatever the date is, there are a few different dates here. They've decomposed all those leaves, and I've got a nice little soil layer started. A little composted layer, you could say. It's similar to like worm castings, but this is no worms. It's more like isopod composting, I guess you could say. Similar concept. There's some those are lotus seed pods in there. They're breaking those down. I would take like little sprouts and cut the sprouts and put those in there. They love little sprouts. I've done next to no maintenance. I don't have to spray them. You do have to maintain some moisture in there. Look at that guy. It's neat because when they get against the glass like that, it allows you to see their underside very clearly. And if you get a female that's, got her brood pouch full of eggs or babies, you can see that very well too. And I just moved all these jars like 2 minutes ago. So they kind of disturbed them, and all the, bigger ones generally are going to hunker down and hide. But as they sit at any given point, you always see something in there. It's not like just a jar of leaves and dirt. But this is the Earth Cycle jar, and I don't want to go too much more into it now, but basically it's a way to make soil, a rich, nice soil that you could use for, your house plants or put in the bottom of your aquarium. That's how I'm spinning this to related to the aquarium hobby, because this is realistically what you could do. It'd take a little while, but that's it's not a fast process. Turning, I call it Earth Cycle jar because this is how Mother Nature recycles living things that die and turn them back into a substrate that then life springs from. So this started out, there is a little rock layer. It's hard to see because all these fine particles of dirt, basically isopod waste mostly, has fallen down and filled that in. But it was some stones, and then there was a little layer of soil, and then all the starter leaves and stuff. So they have really done a good job and made a nice little layer here. And I would think after a few month cycles, you could have a layer thick enough to actually, harvest some soil out of there. And you could also, if you had a big enough fish, you could feed the isopods to a fish. Maybe you got a big old Oscar or some kind of crazy fish like that. But yeah, that's coming. Earth Cycle jars, probably a few more weeks. And I promise, here comes a funny thing. I promise that these Earth Cycle jars will not be like the jar of life that never came out. So it's been forever ago. I wanted to make an aquatic version of this. This is basically a land version of the jar of life. I made a video a long time ago. I don't know, I don't think tons of people have seen it, but I was talking about a jar that would come with your sand and a little soil, some gravel, and like a bag of bugs that then you could, get this kit and it would come with everything. You could set it up and it would be like a little aquatic ecosystem jar. Problem with it is it's very volatile. It's a gallon, It's if I set up 20 of them, 20 experiments, there would be more than one or two that kind of had critical failures, which, not a problem to me, but it definitely is a problem to a customer just starting out and wanting to have a very specific experience. And I want there to be success. So also, it's very heavy to ship. It just, none of it makes sense. Really, it would be better if you set up a jar, set up the environment, had it sit for a little while, let it stabilize a little bit, then put some kind of little, botanical live leaf culture in there or something, some scuds in there or something that's going to, be the living part. So having it ship all in one package, in one time, affordably, the glass jar, the sand, it's just so heavy, the water with the live culture. There was no feasible way to do it, and there were so many variables and problems with the testing over and over again. I tried so many different avenues that, by the time I was coming out with a finished jar of life product that was going to be something sellable, that was going to have a high success rate, it really was such a watered down version. There was no dirt in the soil. There was no soil under the sand because that was too volatile. I'm going on about nothing here. Long story short, it just wasn't going to, it wasn't going to work out for very many people, I don't think. And this is a similar concept, only a land version that every test I make has huge success. Every test I put together, 2 months later, you have reproducing isopods and reproducing creatures. I've had no mass critical fail. I've had no failures yet at all. Now, you certainly can overfeed it and ruin it. You can spray it every week and ruin it, with the lid being a little screen lid. Not much moisture is leaving. So if there's lots of ways you can fail them, I'm sure. But it was just such a better, higher success rate. And again, you're making soil to put under a dirted aquarium, ultimately, is the idea. Plus, it's an educational tool it's an example of how Mother Nature turns dead things into, their basic elements to then be turned back into something alive, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So this is, the Earth Cycle jars are coming out probably in 3-4 weeks. We've got a little shutdown coming at the beginning of August for our family week vacation we do every year. And after that, that's when that product's going to be launched. Tank Smoothie, which is that gel-based aquarium food, that's coming out Friday, July 18th, as well as the whole relaunch of the website. So thank you so much for all the support. I'm just blown away. There's one more surprise. I'm not going to show you right now, but maybe in a week or two, I'll do a video about the expansion. So I've been talking about the expansion. I talked about it in another video, like this whole, those doors open up into a room. Well, that's been totally cleared out. It's, it opens into a warehouse. We've put a wall up. We're in the middle of insulating and doing construction work still, but that's going to triple the space we have, and really allow us to do some of these other projects, like get our shrimp breeding project back going, so I can get some shrimp back in stock, and really open this up and to expand and do great things, more things. So one more, I promise. And also at the end of that room, so there's the warehouse, and we'll go into here, it connects to this room, and I'm not going to show you guys because it's not even close, but there is a future greenhouse planned. There is basically 2 buildings that were built separately here at my dad's shop, and then they were connected on one end. So there's this long alley. It's 8 foot wide by 40 feet long, and it happens to line up perfectly so the sun kind of crosses it like it needs to, and that is going to be a greenhouse in the future. Now that's probably more winter project for building to really be in operation next spring. But for right now, the expansion going on behind me is going to be getting tubs and stuff set up in a week. So that's very much happening now. The website, again, is being radically changed here on the 18th. And one more thing to say about the website is something that's going to be there is new contact information. So with our old original email, phillipsfishworks@gmail.com, that has turned into, there's been some issues there. And through this growth and expansion, we've really had to bring on another person, and things have gotten a little crazy and out of hand. So with the new website, we've got some new things in place for you guys to give us feedback. Also for us to have a smoother, easier process for, let's say you get your order and it's a DOA, way for you to submit a form online. That's easy for us to take care of. So nothing gets lost through the cracks. The worst thing that happens is when things get really busy and there's lots of different ways for people to reach out and contact. Some of those different ways have made it to where some reaching out, or maybe even some problems, have fallen through the cracks and not been properly dealt with. So those, of course, that's a huge issue, and that's what prompted this whole website revamp. And we just want to grow, and we want to go, and we want to get better. And I appreciate everyone who's been along for that journey. And this has gone on long enough. These quick updates are supposed to be 5 minutes long, and this is like 15 minutes. So cutting it off now. July 18th, go to phillipsfishworks.com to see something new if you're into looking at the website, if you like that kind of thing. And the promise, here I am making more promises. I'm so good at following through with these content promises, but the idea is, with the launch of the new website, there will be some kind of weekly updates on the website. There's going to be on the homepage, there'll be a video updated weekly that's talking just about more business related stuff. And also along with that, there will be more YouTube comment for sure. Content. Check out phillipsfishworks.com. Thank you all so much. The support's been unreal. We've just been growing and growing and growing. And that's a good problem to have. The problems we're having are like how to manage this growth. It's better than the opposite problem of how to get growth. Bye.